Good evening and welcome to the Unconventional Games Paint and Sip Challenge. I hope you're all enjoying all the challenges we've been doing over the last week or so. I know I've had fun seeing your submissions. They are awesome. Keep them coming in. Guys, I am coming to you live from the Clemente Museum in downtown Pittsburgh, and we have an awesome night planned for you. First, before we get started, I would like to thank our sponsors for the Paint and Sip Challenge. A big shout out to 8760 Solutions. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. And I know the team is all ready with their painting and their wine. So we had a little video chat earlier and saw that they're ready to go. So thank you for your support. Also, all of the UG sponsors, a big thank you to Energy Transportation, EQT Corporation, Steptoe and Johnson, Gutman Energy, 10 Mile, TH Portageon, Mountain State Pressure Services, Tetra Tech, Capital Sand, and Ken Miller Supply. Once again, we could not do this without you, so thank you so much. Before we get going, let's make sure that you have everything you need for the program. So you should have your placemat ready to go on the paint and sip side. All right, we're going to use this for our wines and our paint mixing tonight. You can check out the photo setup that we have on the screen. For the painting segments, you should have your paints ready to go and your brushes out of the packaging. Easel and canvas setup, also a cup of water to rinse your brushes and some paper towels. For the wine segments, slightly easier, just have your bottles open. We did send you a handy dandy corkscrew with the Energy Transportation logo. So if you don't have them open them up, let them breathe. All right, guys, I'm excited to have our two experts here with us tonight to lead us through the painting and wine tasting. Dwayne, come on over and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Engine House Wines.
Hello, everybody, and hopefully you've got your wines open and your paints ready and all that. We're down here in the cellar of the Engine House 25, which houses the Clemente Museum, and that's the reason I'm wearing this Clemente shirt that I wear every day here. I'm the winemaker at Engine House 25 Wines, and we're going to have some fun tonight with the wines, and we're going to taste them, we're going to talk about them. You guys are doing the unconventional games. I'm the unconventional winemaker. I try not to be a snob or a prude in any way. I want you guys to have fun with this, and don't worry if you're not picking up what I'm picking up. It's no big deal. It's what it tastes like to you and how it is. So let's pour a little of Sauv Blanc. And I've been doing these blind tastings all summer long down here in the cellar, and so for me to even say right now that it's a Sauv Blanc is kind of odd for me. Usually I'm telling you guys to guess, but we knew that you had a lot to do with the painting and what I'm going to be saying and all that to kind of digest. But all three of these wines tonight were made, the grapes were grown in Napa Valley. Originally, we wanted to try to pick some wines from different regions, but we thought it was we picked the three best, and so they turned out to be in the same region. I get these actually from the same vineyard called Lanza Vineyards. This is a Sauv Blanc that it wasn't oaked. So what I do is, get it in the glass. Hopefully you're going to have a glass for each one of your wines. If you got that many glasses in the house, we use a little 21 glass here. So this is a real nice, easy drinking wine. Some of you might be thinking Sauv Blanc, and maybe it's a little on the sweet side. This one's bone dry. This is bone dry. I'm going to have a little taste. Hopefully you guys will. When I put my nose in this thing, it's grassy. I'm from St. Mary's, Pennsylvania. I grew up milking cows and baling hay. This one puts me on the hay wagon. It has a little bit of, grass, hay kind of smell to it, which I kind of love. And it's also got a little bit of dried apricots, which is probably pretty unique to Sauv Blancs. You're not going to have too much dried apricot in Chardonnay or Riesling. But this one's a nice, easy, smooth drinking wine. And so we're pretty happy with this one right here. And it's a good place to start. I was hoping it would have a little sweetness for you guys, but we fermented this one to dry. And I'll talk about some of the wines later as we go. We want to get you painting. So that's the goal right now. So I'm going to let Lynette take it over and do a little chat, and then we're going to come back to you with number 2. Get ready for that one, and I'll talk about the winemaking process. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Thank you, Dwayne. I had a little sip of that myself, and it is fantastic. Very good. And I'm not always a white wine person, but this is really, really good. All right, Julie, we are going to kick it over to you to get started with our masterpiece.
So much. I appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. Excited to be painting with you tonight, this afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. So just wanted to really quickly, I know Lynette went over supplies, and I'm going to just go over that really quickly again. So you'll need your paints. I have red, white, blue, and black. I have an extra plate here, a couple of those, paper towels, a cup of water, and 3 brushes. And you may have more brushes. If you want to use more than the ones that I'm using, that's totally fine. But you will want a large flat brush and a medium brush. And I'll try to hold these up so you can see them. And then a little tiny brush, little detail brush. So if you've never done this, it's pretty easy. Mine's not going to look exactly like mine. I've painted this several times. They're different every single time. But just have fun with it. I'll walk you through it step by step. We'll take a couple of breaks, let everyone catch up and get on the same page. But the whole point is just have fun. Make sure that you're taking breaks for a drink of wine or to get clean water if you need to. And so we're going to jump right in. And so the very first thing that we're going to do, so this is going to be kind of the first segment of our, we'll have like 3 segments. So the first part's going to be, we're going to outline all of these objects, the bottle, the glasses, and the table. And I like to do that in a really light color so that if you make a mistake, you can always cover it up. So I'm going to take my plate here and my large flat brush, and I wet it down a little bit so that the paint doesn't soak into dry bristles. So wet it down a little, and I'm going to take a scoop of blue and a scoop of white. And these are not exact measurements, so don't worry if yours looks a little bit different. So I'm going to take 2 scoops of white and mix that up on my plate. And I'll try and make sure that you guys can kind of see my mixture. And we are going to thin this out quite a bit, just enough to where we can still see it on the canvas, but it's not so thick that if we do make a mistake, we can't cover it up. So just a light blue, mixing up a good amount of that. Okay. And then I'm going to thin this out with, I kind of pound my brush on the bottom of the cup just to get some of that extra paint out. So I dip my brush into the water cup and let some of those droplets go into the mixture. I'm going to do that probably 4 or 5 times. I'm just using this large brush to mix up the paint. We're actually going to sketch the images out with a smaller brush, but this goes a lot faster when you have a larger one. So, and if any of you do have questions as we go, we do have that chat bar. I've got a team here with me that will relay that to me. So that is not a problem. If I'm going too fast, let me know. So again, not exact measurements. You may need less water or more water. You're just kind of going for like a syrupy consistency, kind of inky. And I'll show you on my plate. That's even a little bit thick. So I want it to run a little bit faster. So if you think about syrup, that's kind of what you want. Takes a second to get it worked in. All right, so that brush is going to go away. I'm going to grab my detail brush. So that's this little tiny one here. And to keep it nice and pointy, just kind of twirl it off the edge of the plate. Right, so I'm going to start with the bottle, and don't feel like everything has to be super symmetrical. It's kind of an abstract impressionist painting, so you can always fix it too. That's why we're doing it in kind of a lighter color. I'm making mine a little bit brighter so that you can see it. Our lights are really bright, so I want you to be able to see what I'm painting here. So I'm going to come up to, and whatever canvas that you have, just come over about maybe a quarter of the way. Mine is about 4 inches or so. So I'm going to put a little dash there and then another dash. Again, mine's about an inch, but if you have a smaller canvas that you're using, it might be less than an inch. So that's going to be like the top of the neck of your wine bottle. And then I always like to use my pinky as a kickstand if I'm painting vertically. So I kind of rest that on there and come down. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight, just come down a few inches, like so. Then you start to curve, and this is where it gets fun. So I like to do a little bit on each side to try and keep it as uniform as possible. So kind of wing it out to the left, wing this one out to the right. And again, if you make a mistake, it's just paint. It dries, you can paint over it, or if you make a mistake, you can always wet down a paper towel and wipe it off and start over. And I am painting at an angle, so if mine looks a little wonky, I will fix that during one of the breaks. So I'm not coming down too far, just a little bit. So you kind of wing it out to the side and then back down, out to the side and back down. So already you can see mine's a little off, but that's okay. That's part of it. That's why we're sketching it first. Okay, so just curving it down. Right. So that's the start of it. We can always fine tune it from here. And so these little tiny brushes, they don't hold a lot of paint. So you basically want to make sure that you have plenty of water and a little bit more paint. Takes a few more brush strokes, but once you get kind of the shape that you want, so like this one is a little bit less curvy, so you can always come back in and fix that. Everything inside of the wine bottle is going to be blue anyways, so that's what's nice about this painting. All right, and another nice thing is that the background is much darker, so if you need to fix up anything about like the actual shape of it, you can do that with a darker paint. All right, so then you'll just bring this straight down, all the way down almost to the bottom. I have about an inch from the bottom. And if you need to, you can kind of do your, put a little line, sort of eyeball it where you want this to end. And I always like to use my non-painting forearm as kind of a kickstand to steady my hand if I'm painting vertically. Again, all of this can be kind of fixed up. We're just sort of roughing in the shape. All right, so there's that side. Drag this one down about the same distance. I'm not being too particular with this part just because I know that we're going to come back and clean up all the edges. All right, and then you'll just round it out at the bottom. So it's just like a very slight happy face at the bottom, just a little curve. All right, so definitely two different looking bottles. That's okay. Again, you can always go back and kind of switch it up. This one, what I'm going to do is just bring it out a little bit further. So you'll want to end maybe, no, just a little bit right of center. So it always helps too if you just kind of blur your vision a little bit, kind of squint your eyes so that you're not really looking at the fine details just yet. We're just blocking in that object. So that's the wine bottle. All right, and do we have any questions yet? Not yet. Okay, so if you do, let us know. We've got the chat bar up here, and I've got my guys over here letting me know if we have any questions. But so far, that's the first step. Second, we're going to do this glass here. So you're going to start just a little bit above center and do a slight arch. And again, this is a 16 by 20 canvas, so that's maybe 3 inches, but just maybe like the middle third. It's almost like a little football shape. So if you want to, you can do that. Then you're going to do almost like a V, but it's slightly curved at the bottom. So what I like to do is find the center point, come down maybe 5 inches or so and put a dot, and then just connect it with a slight curve. And the right side of it sort of disappears behind the wine bottle. And again, these are rough, we're roughing in the object, so you may need to tweak it, which I definitely do on almost all these paintings, but just to get the main parts in. Then we've got the second wine glass sort of tucked in, kind of sneaking in behind there. So just a little bit in from the left side. I'm going to do a straight line up, straight-ish, doesn't have to be perfectly straight. So it's about 1 inch on my end, but it's roughly the same size shape as this. You're just tucking it behind the first glass that you did. So another little football shape happening here. You can do that center point. It's going to end a little bit above where this one is. Sort of tuck that side in behind the right. This one curves up to the left. All right, so good time for questions if anybody has them. I know I kind of whirled through there. We doing good? All right. So we're going to wait on the stems. Pardon me. We're going to actually do those at the very end, but we'll do just the table that's behind it. And so you're not going to go through your wine glasses. You just kind of want to eyeball it. So I'm starting about, let's say, 1/3 of the way up from the left-hand corner of the canvas and putting a dot, and about the same spot on the right. Doesn't have to be exact again. And just think about a slight arch. Follow that until you hit another object. Stop. And if you have any room down here, you can paint through that. I don't. So I'm just going to carry it invisible, not touching the canvas. We'll lift up back over here. So I was a little off on this side, but basically you just want it to look like there's a table behind it. All right, so I want to make sure that we're ready to move on. I don't want to move too quickly. I know I kind of bounce through this pretty quickly. But what we're doing now after this part is just we're going to fill in this background, and then we're going to take our first break. So I'm going to show you how to mix up the burgundy paint color. And it's fine if you are actually like still working on any of this. You can continue to do that, and I'll continue to do this as we move through it. So that burgundy color, I'm just rinsing my brush out, drying it off. It's just a big scoop of red and a tiny little corner of black. And you can always add more. It's just kind of safer to start off with just a little until you get the shade that you like. So I'm going to add just a little bit more. And again, I'm going to add just a little bit of water to that. So just a few drops of water. And this is one of my favorite parts of this painting because it's messy and it's haphazard and it's just fun. This is where you can get out all of your aggression for the work week. You don't want to go too crazy because this will stain your clothes if you splatter it. All right, so a little bit of water. So I'm going to start with, and if you have a large brush like this, which that's what I'm going to use. You can use a smaller one, but I can actually turn it this way and make it sort of skinny. And this is where you can fix up sort of anything that you don't like. So as far as your bottle, if you don't like the shape of it, this is darker than the blue that you used. Right, so I'm just outlining around all of these with the skinny edge of my large brush. And then you're going to fill in, literally just doing crisscross X shapes back and forth. Be a little more careful, probably closer to the glasses in the bottle. And if you do have a canvas that has edges to it instead of like a panel, you can carry this throughout. So you can go ahead and paint the tops and the sides too. But that is, and mine's a little bit brighter on this one. They'll be a little bit different on each one, but you get the idea. So once you kind of reach one of these sections, like right up to your bottle, kind of start there and then go back into it a little bit. But brush strokes are good. That gives it that texture. So this is actually a really good time for me to take a break. I'm going to keep continuing doing this part of the background, and you guys continue to do yours. I think I'm just going to go ahead and throw it over to Dwayne, and he's going to talk some more about some wine.
Hello, we're back here in the wine cellar, and hopefully you guys are doing as well as she is with the painting, because that looks pretty awesome. And that's right up my alley right there with the wine bottle and wine glasses. Let's go ahead, though, and because we definitely have a schedule, let's pour a little of the Cabernet while I'm talking. This is kind of our flagship wine here, and some of you guys that are painting tonight, I think, have had some of our wines before. Some you probably haven't. This is one of our favorites here. Normally, if the Unconventional Games label's not on the bottle, Clemente Cabernet is, kind of our flagship wine, and it's a Clemente image with the angel wings, and some of you guys have seen that one before. This is our 2016 Cabernet. It's 100% Cab. We haven't mixed anything in with this. I had a little taste earlier just to double check on some of my notes. I don't get to taste all of our wines here constantly because we have so many different ones. We have about 14 different varietals, and we get grapes from Napa Valley, Chile, and South Africa. So this is, all three tonight are Napa Valley. This one has been oaked. If anybody that does know me, you know I love oak. And here in the Engine House 25, we use American oak, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. We use Hungarian oak, and we use French oak. And I don't know if anybody's having a little bit of we might have a little sound issue. We might have a little static coming here from the cellar. I don't know if I explained to you, we're well underground. We're 8 inches of concrete away from the Clemente Museum. So hopefully it's not on my end, but I pick up a little bit of static. But have a little taste of this Cabernet. Always before the taste, though, go in there and hit that bouquet, because you want to take, the cool thing about wine is you want to take your time. I think maybe with beer, you're not smelling and taking your time as much. Where wine, you want to slow it down. Have a glass of wine with your wife or your husband or your roommate or whoever, and it gives you a chance to kind of socialize and talk about things. And so you're slowing it down a little bit. And this one here, there's got some subtle nuances, and you really want to try to pick these up. So this one here has definitely been oaked in all 3 of those barrels. So I'm picking up a little bit of pepper on the nose, and that's not traditional to the oak itself. That's going to come from the grape. This one has a little vanilla note to it, also a little high in alcohol. All our wines here are high in alcohol because when the grapes are being shipped from California and Chile and South Africa, they're on a truck from California and they're on a boat from down south. So it takes a while for the grapes to get here, and the alcohol, the sugars rise, which cause high alcohol. So this is 14.4 alcohol. So when you hit this one, like a lot of my wines, you're picking up just a little bit of that alcohol on the nose as well. So let's go ahead and have a little taste. So right there, this one here has the fruit is not, it's not red fruit. It's kind of like black fruit. It's kind of like currants, and that's a tricky one because a lot of people don't eat currants by themselves. But when you're learning winemaking and trying to be a sommelier and all that, you have to taste a little bit of everything and really think about it. And I've had some currants before while tasting wines, and this one definitely has a little black currant to it. And like I say, there's no fresh berries in here. Everything here is super dark fruit. Um, but it's got a really nice typical Cabernet kind of nose and kind of taste, where a lot of my wines are unique. And like I say, I'm the unconventional winemaker. We make things here by hand. I'm making grapes right now. We are making wine. I've got grapes in the back, Cabernet grapes, these exact grapes from the same vineyard, Lonza. And so this one's pretty special for us. We make a lot of Cabernet. It's a big seller for us. Um, and we're aging it for 3 years. Where a lot of wineries, if you flip the back label, and there's a lot of information on the back label here, a lot of wineries will say aged in French oak for 12 months. I've never aged wine for only 12 months in oak barrels. Since I'm unconventional and since I'm a little unique here, I can age it for a long, long time. And so I'm aging it. This was 3 years in oak, three different types of barrels, and we get barrels from the American barrels are Greene County, Pennsylvania. Pretty awesome, right? We get some from West Virginia, the Ozarks, Minnesota, and the Shenandoah Valley. So there's five kind of oak uh, trees that are being cut and aged here in America and shipped to Australia, and they're coopered, which is the barrel maker is a cooper. They're coopered in Australia by AP Johns and then shipped back to Napa Valley, and that's now where I get the barrels from when I get my French and Hungarian as well. So there's a lot of crazy oaking going on in these wines, and that's why they're kind of unique. The cool thing for you guys is that they're super low in sulfite. So you won't have the sulfite headache, the wine headache tomorrow. Um, these two reds that we're going to taste are pretty much zero in sulfite. You could be allergic to sulfite and drink these two wines, and you won't have any problems. So a little bit about Engine House 25. We've been here making the wine for 25 years in the cellar, and I've grown, in many different directions. And like I say, I get grapes from three different places all over the world, and we age it in the three different barrels. So that gives us some, uniqueness right there. Most wineries like Cardinal, Opus One, Joseph Phelps, they're using only French oak. I get to use these really cool barrels from the Shenandoah Valley that actually this one went through for a couple months, and it makes the wine just a little on the fruity side and not so many tannins, and that's why you're not puckering up right now in this Cabernet, where a lot of cabs make you pucker. This one doesn't. So um, hopefully you guys are liking this. I know you're going to like number three. That's a good finishing wine. I don't want to talk too long because I want Jolie to keep you guys painting. So I think right now we should go back. Hopefully you guys are having fun with this and your base is ready. So Jolie, I'm throwing it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Dwayne. Glad to be back. All right. So we've done the background. Hopefully everyone's done with that. While you still have that paint color, and if you've rinsed off your brush, that's fine. If you haven't, you can keep it out. We're going to fill in. It's basically the same paint color of the wine inside the glasses. So, and you can use a smaller brush if you want. For instance, I have like a smaller flat brush that I'm going to use, but if you want to use your large flat or just a medium brush, that's fine too. So I'm going to go ahead and put the base color for the wine in here. So I'm going to come down about an inch on my canvas and just kind of mimic this art shape that is at the top of the glass. Might kind of disappear a little bit behind there. And same thing here. Now, this part here, you're actually probably going to meet up with the bottom of the football here. So something like that. You just want to have about an inch there. And then fill that in with whichever brush. And it looks pretty flat. That's going to be the last section of the instruction is to put all the different colors and shading and highlighting. Because it looks like we have the last step was using the same color that we have, this Cabernet color. You'll just do sort of a mimic football shape, just the same kind of mirror image of the top arch here. Give it about an inch. I'm leaving just a little bit of the blue showing. You don't have to, but that way you don't lose it in the background because it's a very similar color. It's actually the exact same color. And then fill in just up to the next glass. And then I did the same thing on this front glass, and you might run right up to that first little bottom of your football shape, and that's fine. You can actually go over it if you want. But don't forget, if you need to add a little bit of water, so if, I don't know if you guys can see, sometimes it doesn't fill into all the little pockets of the canvas. So if you have a little bit of water in there, it helps to kind of fill that in a little bit thicker. And I'm just doing this step since you already have that paint mixed. Once it sits for a minute, it might dry a little bit. So may as well do that step next. And just fill that in. If you lose any of these lines, don't worry about it. We're going to add more to that as we go. We can go right back over it. As with any of these steps, if you make a mistake or you miss a step, feel free, please, to ask any questions. They're being fed to me as they come in, and I'm happy to answer those. But so one really important thing too, if you have extra paint, hang on to these plates. We will probably use them. We can always mix up more, but I like to kind of reuse some of the paint mixes so as not to waste them. So I'm going to set this one aside. So I'm done with my burgundy color for now. I'm going to go back to my large flat brush using the same blue that we used for the outline to fill in the wine bottle. And that's been sitting for a second, so I just added a few drops of water. Just kind of be careful if you're getting kind of close to the burgundy. That you don't drag it across and make purple. And one thing to keep in mind, if you have your glass of wine sitting close to your paint water, make sure you look before you dip or drink, because I actually I drank paint water once on accident. It was terrible. And I have ruined a glass of wine by putting my paintbrush into it. I still drank it because it's non-toxic, but no, I didn't. Wait, I might have. But yeah, so just make sure that those are distinguishable. So we're just filling this in solid. You don't have to, it's okay if you have like streaks or anything like that, because we are going to add some texture with a bunch of streaks and colors, but just getting the base down with this. I'm really thirsty for some reason right now. Anyone else? Could one of you go up and see if they have wine? I know they have wine. Just kidding. I'll take beer. I don't care. All right. So pretty solid. It doesn't have to be completely saturated, just as long as you fill that in. So that's the next step. I'm going to take a second to take any questions, let you guys get that filled in, and then we'll move on to the next step, which is going to be filling in these other parts of the canvas that have not received any paint. And then we'll take another break and finish up. So I'm so far away from the screen, I can't see if there are questions coming in. No, we're good. Okay. All right. All right, so this is a good time for me because I'm standing at an angle. So if I come right in front of it, then I can see if it's, and that's symmetrical enough. That's good. All right, so the last thing that we're going to do is make this kind of periwinkle blue color. Don't rinse your brush. Take a scoop of white, set it off to the side with a little bit of your blue, and then just a touch of red. Right, so, and it's just, I say periwinkle blue. It's kind of like just a lavender color. You guys can see that, and I know it's really bright, but a little bit of a lavender color, and that's going to be the color that we do up here. I'm using this big brush. You might want to use a smaller one. If you go over your lines, that's fine. We'll go back and do those. And then everything underneath the glasses. So the rest of the table. And this can be really sloppy. You don't have to think too hard on this one. Just try not to go into any of the wet paint that you've just done with your red or the blue. So this is just the base color. And you can do kind of those choppy crisscross brush strokes. This is a good time to kind of try and fine tune the edges if you want, but we are going to be going back this last section before we take, or after we take our break rather, we are going to come back and do our shadows, our highlights, our details, the stems, the glasses, the label, and that's the fun thing. So we did not personalize this wine bottle, but most of the time when I teach this, people like to do that. So you can be thinking about if you want to do like your family crest or your initials or your anniversary date or anything that speaks to you and is something that you want to personalize. All right, so again, if you are painting the sides of your canvas, you can go ahead and do that. But so this is a good time to take our second break. Go ahead and I've completed mine, so I'm not going to keep painting right for a second, but go ahead. I'm going to throw it back to Dwayne, and he can talk to you about wine stuff, and we can finish up after that. Back to you, Wayne.
Thank you. And that's looking great right there. I wish I was painting because that looks awesome. And next
Oh,
time
thanks.
I'm going to paint that painting.
I,
Um,
I hope so.
yeah, it looks great. Guys are doing a great job. Thanks for throwing it back over this way. Hey, so it's round three, round three. And so number two, you could throw that in the liquor store or a wine shop, and that kind of fits in with the Cabernets a little bit. It's kind of unorthodox a little, but nothing's as crazy as this one. So hopefully you guys have had it open for a little bit and give this a little pour. This one's got quite a story. If anybody, there's not a lot of information on the back label about this one. We call this the tequila wine, and it's because it was aged in a smoked mesquite tequila barrel that had tequila in it for 3 years. The oldest, craziest looking barrel you've ever seen. 100 of them were shipped up here to Pittsburgh. Wiggle Whiskey bought them, put their whiskey in it for 6 months, and then I got the barrels. I traded some of my wine barrels for some of these. And let me tell you, if you could patent or if you could manufacture the smell of that barrel, it was just unbelievable. I took a Sangiovese wine that I had that was from Napa, and it was in an oak barrel that just didn't give it a little bit of oomph. And so it was kind of flat, and I put it into that barrel for 6 months, almost like I was kind of trying to fix it a little bit or just give it like a finish. And if you've have already had a little taste of this one, it's very unique. There's no wine like this one in the world. Think about it. My wine, it was a 2016 Sangiovese, aged for 3 years in wine barrels, then put into this barrel here that was already 4 years old that had tequila, whiskey, and then my wine in it. It was, unbelievable. And after a few months, after bottling, we had a little taste, and we were like, wow, we're onto something right here. And I just had this tonight, right as we were getting ready to go live with Lynette, and this thing's a smoker right here. The sad thing is, you're not going to pick up a lot of the nuances of the wine itself. You're going to pick up the nose is definitely is that oaky mesquite barrel. And originally it had a little more tequila on it. The tequila maybe is almost gone, and you're just picking up smoky mesquite wood on that thing. It's got a hint of tequila, but then when you go in for a taste, and you can even see by the color, if you compare it to your Cabernet, it's a little more brown in color. So it even picked up, I believe, a little bit of color from the whiskey and the tequila. But this one is unique right here. And it's very smooth, very smooth. And we just thought it was kind of like a nice way to finish with the three, almost like a little bit of a dessert wine, almost leans to the port side, fairly high in alcohol, not as high as a port. This is about almost 16 on this. This was like 15.8, even though on the back label I cheated a little bit, and it's a little under that, and we can talk about that in private sometime. And as you guys are tasting this, if you're wondering where I am and what I'm, these barrels behind me, we have a barrel membership club here that the Shale Energy Alliance is a member of. It helps me run the Clementi Museum. You join my club, and for that you get a barrel's worth of wine. And so some of the barrels are behind me, and I've got in my club, I've got Bruno Sammartino and Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam, and I don't know if you can, that's the one we're right in front of. Troy Polamalu, Jimmy Leland, Franco Harris. I've got 107 members right now in the club, and it's a pretty cool, unique club, and you get a lot of perks at the engine house here for events and cigar room and all that stuff. So we got some pretty cool little, a unique little club. And you get to be first come, first serve on wines like this. I don't have a lot of this wine. I only made one barrel of this one. And so we do some unique things here, and feel free to check us out and give us an email if you want to come in for a tasting and a tour. Feel free to do that. Let's get back to this wine for a second. I don't think you're going to pick up any of the whiskey on the nose on this one. It's definitely got some of that mesquite wood that from the tequila barrel, but it had this beautiful tequila note that I think now in time it's kind of going away. And here again, it's all what you think and what's in your head and what you're picking up. I could say something and put something into your brain a little bit, and maybe it helps you, but it's all whether you like it, how it is on your taste buds. If you're tasting, so if you have some food, a little cheese tray or something that you're nibbling on, it will change the taste of these wines. But I wanted you guys to see a little range of the things that we do here. We picked out a couple. Shale Energy Alliance has been tasting these cabs. We made a Cabernet for Smokey Robinson. You guys remember some of that. And you guys had liked it. And so I figured we picked that same Cabernet basically for the tasting tonight. So we gave you a nice little range of 3 wines. We've got 14 others. Come out and check us out. I could talk all night about wine. If you want, I can keep going. I don't know if how your painting is. Like I say, I know you guys are rushed around with having to paint and having to taste, and it's probably a lot going through your mind right now. But hopefully you're enjoying the wines. Here again, very low in sulfite, so you shouldn't have the wine headache tomorrow. Depends if you're going to have a little something after the wine when you're looking at your finished painting, or keep adding to it, because you can keep kind of tweaking on those things. But I'm liking the image that you guys got going right there. So Jolie, how are you feeling? Are you guys ready to go back on your end and get them to finish up the paintings? Take it away, Jolie.
Yep, we're good. Thank you. Excellent. I'm learning so much about wine I never knew. So perfect. Hopefully everyone is kind of up to speed here. And if you're not, I think this is being recorded. Yes? to be replayed, maybe? If not, yeah, I think so. Okay, cool. Yes, it is. All right, so the next thing that we are going to do, we're going to put our stems in to our glasses. So I'm going to grab my medium brush. You don't really need a large one. And I'm going to grab a clean plate. And I am saving the paint that I've already mixed just because we're going to use a little bit of those same colors. We can always mix more. So I'm going to grab a scoop of white, put that on the edge of my plate, and then just a little bit of water. This one it can be kind of opaque. You don't need it to be quite as thin as those washes that we did before. All right, so if everyone is doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is drinking wine, and some of you have tumblers, that's fine, but the wine stem, it's just a straight line. The very first one, I'm going to start, and for a straight line, you kind of have to be right in front of it. I'm not, so if mine goes a little wonky, just ignore that, I'll fix it. But I like to use, again, like my forearm of my non-painting hand, just to steady my hand a little bit, and come straight down. You'll want to stop. For mine, it's about 2 inches from the bottom. Straight enough. And then another one on this guy here, stopping just a little bit further up from the last one. Then you have just kind of this little sort of, it looks like a test tube at the bottom. So you can do almost like an upside down V on each of these. And hopefully you can see that on the monitor. So each of these little kind of wings is about an inch. Kind of round out the edges and do a little happy face underneath. And that's just the non-technical instruction, but I find that that's the easiest way to teach this painting. You'll fill in the bottom portion of that. Again, if it's not super symmetrical, doesn't really matter. It's kind of an impressionist type of thing, and you can always paint over it once it's dry. All right, so there are my stems. Also going to bounce over to the bottle and put the background for the label. So these things need to dry as we're kind of going, and then we'll come back and do the details. So I'm going to come down about, let's just say 2/3, but it's not quite, so a little bit above halfway down the bottle. So, and that just kind of depends on what shape your bottle is and where you want your label. And all labels are different, but just a very slight arch there, leaving a little bit of room at the bottom. Okay, and then I am going to switch to my large flat brush to fill in the label. It does not have to be a solid white. I'm actually going to water this down just a little bit. You're just using vertical brush strokes. And actually it kind of helps. You don't have to add as much detail and highlights and shadows if you let some of that blue peek through in the background. So just like so. One a little bit further down there. And again, we are still watching the chat bar. So if you guys have any questions at all, just let us know. All right, it looks good. And I'm going to actually bring this up closer to the camera just so you can see kind of where, I don't know how well you can see that, but that's about where we're at right now. You can always, if so, you can probably tell that this is much brighter. It's almost like a magenta. This is a little bit more burgundy. Once you let it dry, you can always go back over it. There's nothing else going on in this background here. So if you want to go back over with a darker color, you can definitely do that. So while we let that white dry, we're going to jump into the inside of the wine glasses. And I still have some of this cranberry color that we mixed. And I'm just going to add a little bit of black to just a little bit of that cranberry. We're just making a slightly darker color. Right, so this is going to go, so we had our top football shape. So I'm going to make another one right under it and fill that in. So you're just going to follow the curve of your bottom sort of arch and then go under. And then the same thing on this one. So basically you have one football shape that was outlined in blue. You'll go right under that and do the darker cranberry. Using the same color, we're going to dry brush these shadows that you see at the bottom of the wine glasses. And by that, I mean, you'll just take off some of the paint that's on your brush, start at the bottom and just kind of wisp it upward. I start at the bottom, I put my brush sort of inverted, kind of lift as I go. Same thing here. And they don't have to be exact. You can put the shadows wherever you like. This is also a really great color to use if you want to add some texture and more interest into your background. Especially if you want to fix anything that you don't like, say for like the edge of your bottle, using a darker color always helps to sort of cover up those boo-boos. And you don't have to do this step. I'm just showing you kind of like what it will look like if you have a bright background and you want to add some darker texture to it. Right, so that is the base for our wine glasses. Let me check back and make sure do we have any questions? Nothing. This is the best class I've had. No questions. It's awesome. All right, so hang on to all of your paint colors. So shadows. Since this is probably dry, your background color for your table, we're going to go in and we're going to put our shadows around our bottle, making a dark blue. And that's super duper easy. It's just a scoop of blue. And then I'd like to start off with just a touch of black. You can always add more if you want. So we're making kind of a navy blue, if you guys can see that. Right, and this is a dry brush, again, exactly what it sounds like. You scoop it up on your brush, dry it off on your paper towel. You can always add more. It's a lot easier to add more than to take away. So the shadows really just going in between this first glass and the bottle. I'm just kind of doing streaks like this. Oh, we do have a question. Okay, what do we have? Oh, so this part? Okay, yeah. So we have a question on how to do this part of the glass. And I'll show you real fast. So that was the same kind of cranberry color that we used. Add a little bit of black to it to make a darker. And so we started off, we just had this sort of football shape here, and then that curve, this curve here. So we just want to make another kind of similar football shape going this way, and then fill it in with that. So hopefully that, and I'll actually, let's see. So this was the original one. So these two. So you'll just do kind of that little football shape underneath it with that darker cranberry color. Hopefully that answered your question. If not, let me know. All right, so we've got our navy blue. It's sort of a navy blue. It's not quite as dark. But that's just going to be very lightly. And I like to start off, again, dry brushing this in here. I start at the top, sort of flick my wrist, bring the brush off the canvas as I go down. I'll stop right there. Can always come back to it. Less is more sometimes. And you'll do the same thing underneath your bottle. That's a good time to kind of fine tune the shape of it if you're not super happy with it. And any of these steps you can always come back to Like I've done paintings that I've looked at for a week and like, I kind of need to fix that part. And you always can. That's the beauty of it. So same thing on this side. And this has a lot of that shadowy blue. But I don't like it to be solid. I like you to be able to kind of see through some of it a little bit. So, and again, don't think that mine's going to look like mine or yours will look like mine. I can't wait to see what yours looks like. It always is such a treat to see the students at the end, especially in the Zoom, because I don't always get to see what you're doing in real time. I have to wait till the end and then you show me and I'm like, wow, that's like way better than mine. So that's always fun. Using this same color, so we have shadows on the left and the right, the bottom, and then I'm also going to do a few at the top of the bottle. So you don't want them to be all the same thickness. You can put these really wherever you want. They don't honestly make sense as far as light source, but it's an aesthetic thing. You go with what you want. If you do something that looks totally different than what I've done and you like it, then go with it. Whoop. Got it. All right. This is still a little bit wet, which is fine, but I'm actually going to go ahead and use my blue and put some streaks. So all of the sort of smudgy details that are inside the label, if it's really wet, wait a little bit. You don't want it to make like a milky kind of weird sludgy color. But I'm using just a little bit of paint, doing a few brush strokes vertically, a few horizontally, and then also using just a little bit of the dry brush at the back of the table. So I know I just threw a lot at you guys. So take your time if you need more, but I will go over that here in just a second. So we did the dark blue, which goes on the edges of the bottle, underneath it, streak some up top, can do some underneath here on the bottom part of it, a little bit dry brush inside the label, some towards the back of the table. And then it's nothing fussy or fancy. You don't have to overthink this part. It's do a few, take a step back. It's really good to kind of give yourself some distance and look and say, okay, now I can see the whole picture. Do I like this? Do I want to add to it? But really wispy, really light, kind of airy. So we're getting close. You can also use this color, by the way. I'm going to switch brushes to a smaller brush. So we have a little bit of that blue inside of the wine. So you might want to add a little bit of white to that dark blue if it's really, really intensely dark. And just put a few dashes. Actually, I'm going to do that. Put a few dashes of blue. And that's just kind of a reflection. Oh, and one more thing. That same blue, little light shadows underneath the wine glasses if you want to do that. All right, questions? Nothing yet, really. Awesome. All right, well, I know I kind of zipped through that, so I'm going to give you guys a second to do that. And then we'll come back and we'll do kind of our finish. We've got just a couple more steps and then I'll take any questions that you have. So I'm in no hurry. I'm not going to abandon you at all. So let me know if you guys have anything and hopefully you're enjoying your wine and your painting. All right, so just a few more steps for you guys. So I'm going to take my teeny tiny brush. If you still have that cranberry color that we had, you can use that, or just mix red with just a tiny touch of black. You can use this little bitty brush, and I'm going to use my kickstand to keep this straight, but you'll just put a little line of that down the center of your stem, and you're literally just kind of smushing, that's not technical, but that's what it is, a little bit of that color into the base of the glass. And yes, I did just use my finger to kind of smear it around, but that's kind of the effect that I like, and that's the easiest way to get it. And same thing on this one. All right, and I'm going to grab my large flat brush. And so I have kind of a purple color. So that is my cranberry color with a little bit of white and a touch of blue. If you don't have any of that, just a big scoop of white, tiny bit of blue, tiny bit of red. So we're going to have this, pardon me, lavender. Dry brush that. And if you don't like certain colors, you don't have to add these. But I actually really like this color. So a few flecks of that into the top of the bottle. You can add some into the tops of the glasses. Again, kind of horizontal and vertical stripes. You can see on the sample painting, I have a few different shades of that going on. So, and you can play with this forever. You can add it all over the place if you want. So the last thing is highlights. And that is essentially, we're just adding a few little specks of white to the glass elements, which is the bottles, kind of going around the wine glasses. And then, of course, to personalize it. So go ahead and use my tiny brush, white paint, a little bit of water just to keep that nice and flowy since it does not hold a lot of paint. And you don't have to technically outline everything. I think I just basically like to make sure that the edges of the glass, that you can see those nicely, especially if, like my blue that I did to outline it was pretty bright, and that was mainly so that you all could see it. So if you can still see the blue, just go over those with white. And then the highlights are just dashes. So starting at the tops of these wine glasses, I'm basically just doing little flecks, kind of streaming down. They don't have to be exact. You can do some long ones, separate them if you want. Just a few on this side, a few on that side. Go ahead and make sure that you have all your little footballs outlined there. And it may not be necessary if you don't want to do that. And then a few little streaks on each side. So I'm not sticking directly to the exact painting, but each one's different. You play with it, have fun with it, revisit it a week from now, and you can keep on making it more developed and beautiful. So I just have a couple little dots on each side. Again, this is also a good time if you do need to kind of fix any lines, you can use this highlight to do that. All right, so that is essentially my last step for you. Hopefully you guys had a great time. I want to thank you so much for painting with me. This was wonderful. Does anyone have any questions before we get out of here? All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm going to pass it back to Lynette, I believe, or is it Dwayne? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Lynette, so much. We'll be in touch. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Can't wait to see all of your amazing results. And please send those to Lynette and she can send those to us and we can look at all your awesome results. Thanks, guys.
Hey, we are back here at the Clemente Museum. Julie, awesome job. Thank you so much for guiding us through. You make it look so easy. Again, I do have mine. We did a little test run and, I can barely write my own name. So for her
That's awesome. Am I on? Oh, that's awesome. No, I love it. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So once again, guys, thanks for joining us. Make sure you take a picture of your masterpiece. You upload it to shaleenergyalliance.org/unconventional_games. I would assume you've all been going there, but just a reminder, that is our event website. If anyone from your team was not able to join us tonight, do not worry. We are going to email you this whole recording and all of them as well, whoever couldn't make it, so they can finish this at their convenience. Just a reminder, you do get to go and vote every 24 hours. So if you've been voting, you'll see the little timer starts and it gives you time to let you know when you can come back and vote. So get your votes in for all of the challenges. As a reminder, Top Chef, I've seen a lot of cool submissions. Get those in if you haven't done so. Appalachian Idol videos are coming in, but we still don't have that many. So get those up. We only have a week to go, guys. So once again, everything is due by next Thursday at noon. So pictures, videos, get your activities logged for the Marcellus Marathon. Cannot wait to see all of these awesome masterpieces. Guys, thanks again. Another reminder, we have our virtual escape room, the Undercover Escape. It is the finale and the awards ceremony next Thursday, October 22nd at 5 p.m. Cannot wait. Let's see those masterpieces. Until next week, guys, take care. Have a good night.